I'm Dayna Cunningham, and I have the honor of serving as the Dean of the Jonathan M. Tisch College of Civic Life. And I'm thrilled to kick off tonight's program honoring and celebrating the 2026 recipients. There we go. The 2020, is that too loud? Okay. The 2026 recipients of the Lyon Bendheim Citizenship Award, Lauren Sullivan and Adam Gardner. First, I want to thank our wonderful co-sponsors of this event, the Music Department, the Office of Alumni Engagement, the Environmental Studies Program. Thanks, as always, for your support and collaboration in making this happen. A special shout out to Jeff Rawich, I saw you, there you are, Jeff, and the fabulous team here at the Music Hall who always does such a great job with us in our Tisch events. Thank you. We wouldn't be here tonight without the strong support of JB, Lyon, and Tom Bendheim. JB and Tom are proud jumbos who began their civic pathway here at Tufts University and have continued a life of meaningful civic engagement ever since. It has defined their careers. Together, they generously established the Lyon Bendheim Citizenship Award to celebrate individuals and institutions affiliated with Tufts that have shown a deep commitment to civic engagement through successful initiatives, innovative solutions, and bold leadership. At Tisch, we believe that everyone has a pathway to a lifetime of meaningful civic engagement. And tonight's award winners, Lauren and Adam, embody that belief. They also happen to be the first married couple to receive this award. Jumbo love. Lauren and Adam first met at Tufts, where they pursued their passions of environmental sustainability, psychology, Spanish, and music. Adam's love of music would eventually lead to the formation of the popular band Guster, with fellow jumbos Ryan Miller and Brian Rosenworcel. After graduation, Lauren went on to earn her master's degree in environmental education and to work for the Rainforest Action Network, while Adam toured across the country with Guster, a journey that has taken them proudly from the frat basements of Professor's Row to some of the most famous music venues in the world, including Boston Symphony Hall. Together, Lauren and Adam saw firsthand how musicians can have a unique impact on environmental and social causes while also recognizing the massive environmental footprint that concerts, festivals, and tours leave in their wake. They decided to do something about it. In 2004, they founded REVERB to leverage the potential of live music to amplify the leadership of environmental nonprofits and to work directly with artists, venues, and festivals to create a greener, more sustainable music industry. Under Lauren and Adam's leadership, REVERB's impact has been nothing short of remarkable. They've raised over $21 million for environmental causes, eliminated 4.5 million plastic bottles, neutralized more than 420,000 metric tons of CO2e. You'll tell us what CO2e is. Greened over 350 tours, inspired millions of fans to take direct action on causes they care about. Inspired millions of fans to take direct action on causes they cared, and partnered with some of the biggest artists in the industry, like Dave Matthews Band, Maroon 5, Billie Eilish, My Morning Jacket, Jack Johnson, Tame Impala, Brittany Howard, and of course, Guster, and many more. Many more. Extraordinary. Their leadership goes beyond REVERB, too. They have led groups of musicians to the rainforests of Peru and Guatemala to get a first-hand look at the effects of illegal logging on indigenous and local communities. And Adam has testified before Congress twice in support of important environmental legislation. Lauren and Adam, in recognition of of your innovative approach to tackling today's most pressing challenges and to empowering millions to take action for a more just and sustainable future, it is my honor to present you with the 2026 Lyon Bendheim Citizenship Award. Please come and join me. In conversation with Lauren and Adam tonight is a very special guest and another incredible jumbo, Madeline Weir. A film and media studies major at Tufts, Madeline was part of the inaugural cohort of the Tufts 1.4 Bridge Year program, where she spent a year in Spain doing full-time community service before beginning her academic studies on campus. After graduating in 2020, Madeline's career has been dedicated to scaling clean energy solutions, eventually joining Lauren and Adam at REVERB as their Director of Impact. In this role, Madeline leads the Music Decarbonization Project and manages REVERB's Climate Project portfolio. What a joy to be in conversation with these three outstanding jumbos and civic leaders. Please welcome Madeline Weir.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having us here tonight. Congratulations, Lauren and Adam, very well deserved. I was so excited to hear about this award when everyone reached out from Tisch College, so it's really great to be here with you all. And so before we begin, we're actually just gonna show you all a quick video that kind of gives you a little bit more background about what REVERB is and how we started and what we do. So let's take a look.
Music is the universal language we've always understood. It has the power to bring us together like nothing else. Whether in front of 20 people or 20,000, it transforms us. And when the show is over, we leave with memories of a lifetime. But there can also be a lot left behind, like trash, water bottles, and single-use plastics, from the fans in the front to performers and crew backstage. Pollution, from the gas for the generators to power the lights, the amps, and the sound. There's also the tour buses and all of the vehicles used by the fans to get to the show. Now, multiply that by every concert across the globe. If not done right, there can be a lot of waste. And wasted opportunity. So, what is a solution? Let's start at the beginning. When Lauren, a girl who loved nature, met Adam, a boy who loved music. Together they wanted to start making changes. So they asked the question, how can we transform concerts into events that sustain us and our planet? Their answer was REVERB. And for 20 years, REVERB has worked to use the power of music to bring us together to solve this problem.
Just a few of the acts working with a green tour company called REVERB.
So it should be industry standard, I think, to work with REVERB.
Grammy Award winner Brittany Howard. She hopes working with REVERB will help increase the level of concern about climate change.
I think a lot of people don't take it seriously enough.
We're trying to be as green as possible on the entire tour. So there's we're actually bringing someone from REVERB.
You know that most of this show is being powered by solar right now. That's pretty fucking cool.
REVERB is working to power shows better. To take simple steps to waste less. To support better food systems and the people building them. And to connect thousands of non-profit campaigns with engaged audiences around the world. fighting the climate crisis, and supporting communities facing its worst impacts. Every concert brings people together in a meaningful way, showing us how connected we really are. So let's use concerts as opportunities to inspire action. Because every action we take does make a difference, even if it's a small one. And together, millions of actions create meaningful change, beyond just the music industry, to people all over the planet. And if enough people act, we really can change the world.
So yeah, that video is what inspired me to apply to work at REVERB. That's pretty good. Well, wonderful. So Lauren, let's talk a little bit about your journey. So you studied social psychology and Spanish here at Tufts, and Adam, you majored in psychology. And so while forming, and also while performing and performing with your band, so can you talk a little bit about your professional journey from Tufts into kind of this movement of music and environment? What brought you here? What are some experiences at Tufts that shaped that professional journey?
Definitely. And I think I mentioned this to some students that we spoke with today, that my senior year I led one of the Tufts wilderness orientation trips, which was just wildly impactful, and I just felt like there was this beautiful coming together of humans in the natural world. And so as somebody that grew up in the sticks of Maine and could make that kind of bridge that gap and make that connection, it was something that I felt like I wanted to be a part of in some way, shape, or form, and just kind of feeling the intrinsic value of the natural world and wanting to work on behalf of the natural world. So that really was seeded here, not only through my childhood, but at Tufts as well. And then from my time at Tufts, I moved on to get a master's in environmental education through from Lesley University down the street through a program called the Audubon Expedition Institute. And during that time, did a lot of work looking at the environmental issues, cultural issues, where they intersect, and then also just doing a lot of campcraft and backcountry work. And during that time on a solo, I just had this kind of epiphany moment that I wanted to be working on behalf of the natural world, and just felt that very deeply. So that's kind of where it all started from. Worked at the Rainforest Action Network out in San Francisco, doing some very lefty campaigning, anti-oil campaigning on behalf of an indigenous community in Colombia called the Uwa people. And that was this kind of David and Goliath fight, which was really intense. And then also worked doing community organizing around parks, gardens, and green spaces in Brooklyn, New York with Partnerships for Parks. And so sort of for me, this post-Tufts experience was about finding my place on the environmental continuum. Where could I use my power and my voice in an appropriate way that felt like it really resonated with me. And so for me, it was about knowing that there are these incredible campaigns and organizations out there doing phenomenal work, and figuring out how do we step outside of the environmental bubble where we're all kind of like nodding our heads in agreement about the issues, and talk to your average everyday citizen about these important issues. So for me, it was always about amplifying the environmental movement, and how do I best do that? And that's where I will hand off an answer to Adam if you want to talk about that, because it's sort of, that interplay is important.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I came to Tufts with zero environmental background or desires, frankly. It was really through Lauren that happened. Music was what happened for me at Tufts, also on wilderness orientation. So being in nature was a thing for me, but it didn't occur to me the negative impacts that I was having on nature. I just enjoyed going into it. But then I met the band, Guster, my freshman year, actually in wilderness orientation. Met Lauren, she's a year behind, so I met her my sophomore year, her freshman year. And then as I was getting exposed to all the things that she was into, and then especially after college when we moved in, I was like, oh, I'm living with an environmentalist, now living as an environmentalist, because I still wanted to live with her. And that's what you do. You do what the environmentalist wants to do. And I started to see that how we were living at home was completely opposite from what was happening out on tour and what was going on in the music industry, that at that point we were doing very heavily. We were touring 10 months out of the year. And I started realizing, like, oh my gosh, what a mess the industry is, and came home, I think, one too many times to Lauren to complain about it. She's like, well, why aren't you doing anything about it? And it's like, well, we don't know what to do about it. And even if we did know what to do about it, everyone's plate's full out on the road, and we don't have the time or capacity to do anything. So there's a frustration, and I was on tour at that time with bands like Dave Matthews Band and John Mayer and Maroon 5, and we all kind of had that similar feeling of like, gosh, it's too bad it's such a mess out here. And so it was really Lauren that was like, why are you shrugging your shoulders? Let's do something about it. And that was kind of my excitement about starting REVERB, was how do we clean up the industry? And I think your excitement was more about how do we use the cultural power of music to support and amplify the environmental movement in general.
Yeah, it's amazing. I kind of had a similar story to Lauren. As a student at Tufts, I was a Tisch scholar, actually, so very involved with Tisch College, and worked for a group through that program called Grassroots International, and got a lot of exposure to grassroots climate justice movements in the Global South particularly, and specifically clean energy projects. And so just learning about that and seeing how hard people are working at the grassroots level and what that organizing looks like was so impactful for me, and really was the inspiration to join and totally dedicate my life to the environmental movement. And Lauren's smiling because we were actually able to just grant a significant portion of funds to Grassroots International through one of our touring programs. So that was very exciting for me to see that work come full circle. Okay, wonderful. So my next question is about courage. Obviously, starting something like REVERB takes a lot of courage. I'm sure there's students in the audience tonight who are thinking about how do they have impact on the world, and what does that look like? How does organizing something like this organization actually come together? So could you talk a little bit about that courage, what you guys had to put in at the beginning? What did those early days look like to get REVERB off the ground?
Yeah, I think one of the stories that I love telling in terms of courage, because I am really an introvert at heart, like even speaking in front of this group of people is always like, it's all a struggle for me. But, finding your courage and your power and knowing that we all have it in our own way, shape, and form, and that everybody has a sphere of influence, if it's, your family life, if it's your school, if it's your place of work, whatever it is, we all have power. And so just thinking about that and how best to use mine again and again, where's my place on the continuum? But there was this moment where Adam and I were talking about his lamenting the fact that the touring industry was so kind of disposable, and I'm lamenting the fact that we're not able to amplify the environmental movement the way I wanted to, and had been thinking about, and my sister-in-law sent us this pamphlet from Bonnie Raitt's Green Highway. And I don't know if everybody in the room knows who Bonnie Raitt is, but an amazing blues musician. I think she went to Radcliffe. She's an anti-nukes activist, just a really incredible person. So she had something called the Green Highway, where she was putting together tents and banners and flags and bringing out local and national nonprofits, fueling her buses with biodiesel. And we're like, oh my word, this is exactly what we've been talking about. Something exists out there. And so the courage moment was kind of thinking about who I was and my background and who Adam is, and going, okay, I want to get up the gumption to call Bonnie Raitt and her manager and share with them that we've had an idea that's kind of similar to yours. What do you think? And it seemed preposterous to me for many, many months. So it was that kind of getting up the gumption over, honestly, many, many months to pick up the phone and call her manager and just say, hi, my name's Lauren. This is my background. This is what I'm about. And my boyfriend, Adam, is a touring musician. We get the hurdles and pitfalls, and we want to do more of what you're doing. And it was just this incredible moment where her manager said, oh yeah, we're not going on tour, we have all the gear, we have a nonprofit, we'll be your fiscal sponsor, and when do you want to start? We'll mentor you, and hung up the phone. And so it was really a big nod to Bonnie Raitt and her manager, Kathy Kane, who helped launch us and mentor us through the process. So, yeah. Adam.
And then it was my job, and still is my job, to reach out to, at that point, who's going to be our test pilot, who's willing, who's going on tour, and who can we try this idea out with. And so that was, at that time, we were touring a lot with Bare Naked Ladies, and they had #1 hit and all this stuff, so we were doing arena tours with them. We're like, well, that could be, if we could do something with them, that would be excellent. And we got to know them pretty well, actually, while we were still at Tufts. We opened up for Bare Naked Ladies at Colgate while we were still students. So we've known them longer than anyone in music, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. And I knew that as individuals, they cared about the environment, and so we just kind of laid it out for them, saying, hopefully this will work. Can we try it? And they did. And at that time, it was a co-headline tour with Alanis Morissette, so it was a big tour, and we were lucky to do it for the first time. We just had to go for it. And I think it's always that first leap into the abyss that's always scary, but we knew right after that tour that it was feasible. And that's when we started picking up the phone and calling Dave Matthews Band and Jack Johnson and all these artists that we still work with to this day, 21 years later.
And I would just say from like the interpersonal perspective that some of the folks in this room, some family members in this room, some friends in this room were folks that supported us from the very beginning. Like, yeah, sure, we'll donate, $25, $50, $100 and help you try this thing out. And so it really was, I always advise kids when I talk to them or students when I talk to them, like look around you. Who are your supporters? Who are your family? Who are your friends? What are their connections? What are their spheres of influence? And how can we all help each other to move down the path in a way that feels meaningful to each of us and use our power in a good way. So those first days were very dicey, and we lived together, and he's like, okay, well, I'll cover your rent and you'll quit your 9-to-5 job and we'll see how this thing goes. So it was definitely a leap of faith, but because of the support and the fact that we're living together, it allowed us, the privilege of giving it a whirl. So there was a lot of support there, which we're, eternally grateful for, so.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks for taking the leap of faith. So REVERB started in 2004, and that was a time where not many folks were actually thinking about or talking about environmentalism. So I would just love to hear a little bit more about how REVERB's evolved. I also think it'd be great, Adam, if you would just kind of lay out the 3 pillars of what REVERB is today, just so everyone kind of has the baseline of what we do. But yeah, just how did we get to where we are today?
We're talking about these 3 pillars because it was hard for us to define what REVERB is and does. Is basically the quick answer is anything we possibly could, whatever levers we could move to make the industry more sustainable and to amplify the movement by using the cultural power of music. That's what we were after. But now we can kind of at least talk about it in like 3 neat pillars. So one is, yes, making the music industry in general more sustainable, and that's everything from some of the tour work to battery powering festivals and a lot of the work that now Madeline does for our organization. To then the second pillar being, how do we engage fans? How do we use that cultural power to engage fans at concerts and online through their favorite bands that are actually walking their talk? And that's what's so unique about the environmental movement in music, is that it can be a living, breathing example where other causes that artists care about, they may not be able to have on full display at their shows, like sustainability. So it's a really unique opportunity to say, hey, I care about this as an artist, and here's what I'm doing about it right here at this show. Here's how you can join in on it. And then the third pillar is, how do we amplify and support all these incredible environmental organizations and campaigns that already exist? How do we bring the star power, all the attention, all the energy, all the positive feelings that fans have with their favorite bands, and kind of bring in these incredible organizations that are doing the good work at each tour stop, or just in general in the country or around the world. And so we've done not only hosting a bunch of, I think at this point, 6,500 nonprofit groups and campaigns at the Action Villages at every concert, on every tour or festival, but we've also donated millions and millions of dollars now to help support these organizations and their work, both with their advocacy work, but also with something that I'd love to turn the question now onto you a little bit, Madeline, with the Climate Project portfolio, which is, again, in this third pillar of how do we amplify and support the movement, both by bringing millions of people and taking action, but also funding and dollars and grants.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that a little bit more. So at REVERB, we have a portfolio called the Climate Project Portfolio. And this is, I kind of think of it as we are consultants to artists on philanthropy around climate issues, mostly climate issues, sometimes other social issues as well. And the Climate Project Portfolio supports projects that specifically aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and they don't necessarily have to be related to the music industry. Oftentimes they're not. But we focus on projects that support equitable clean energy, climate justice, nature-based solutions, music decarbonization, which is another program that I run, and then often sometimes we'll also support carbon offsets. And so we select and vet projects from all over the world. Mostly in the past year have been US based, just given funding cuts. Many of the projects that we've selected have been projects that were candidates for funding or had promised funding from the federal government and then had that cut. And so we were able to come in and fill those gaps to complete those projects. And so, yeah, I love talking about them. They're projects kind of that span a whole variety of different topic areas. But yeah, it's a really great program, and it allows our artists to really connect with the stories of the communities that are hosting these projects. So for instance, one example is this organization called Yeah Philly in Philadelphia. One of our touring artists, Billie Eilish, actually toured through Philadelphia and was able to support this project that is a youth center for to get youth out of cycles of violence. And they taught the students how to install solar panels on the roof. They actually installed those, so now it's a resilience center, it's a food market, and so it's just really this awesome story. And Billie's mom actually sent a video so that at the grand opening they could show this video of Billie's mom really excited about the project. So it's just these really amazing sort of community-based projects that we're able to support on behalf of our artists and steward those funds for them. Awesome. Okay, so my next question is, was there a moment that both of you kind of were like, Reverb's made it? It's been 21 years. I don't know if you have that aha moment, but I'd love to hear it if you do.
No, I don't know if, I feel like we're always trying to make it, and I feel like we're never settling. We're always striving to do more and be better and reach more people, and I feel like it's endless in my mind. So not necessarily, but I would say after COVID, when a lot of artists came back, after the big shutdown, especially in the music industry, that a lot of these artists came back, and younger artists came back wanting to be more sustainable, wanting to be kind of better in the industry. And so I think there was a big shift there for us, and we started working with artists like Billie Eilish and Harry Styles and folks that are, squarely in the pop world. And so that was a moment for us. So that Billie Eilish clip of her speaking to Jimmy Fallon, that blew our minds. So I think that might have been one of those, not necessarily aha moments, but oh my God, it's happening. So it's wonderful to have those voices behind us and to be able to support them in their activism and passions. So I think that would probably be mine.
So my next question is about fan action and engagement. And I think it'd be really cool if maybe each of you want to share an example of the type of action that we're asking fans to take on tour when we're out with a tour, and what that looks like.
My personal favorite as a vegetarian / almost vegan is on the Billie Eilish tour. Billie Eilish and her family, they're all vegan, and her mom, Maggie Baird, has a nonprofit that she founded called Support and Feed that helps focus on plant-based foods and addressing issues around food insecurity. And so there's a challenge for fans who are in the concourse at our Billie Eilish Eco Action Village for them to come and pledge to eat some plant-based meals. And so I think that's incredibly meaningful, not just on the connection between fan and artist, but also because it's one of absolutely the most meaningful things that each and every one of us can do to create change around climate change and have an impact. So the more plant-based foods we're eating, the better off the planet is. And it's such an intimate thing. Food is such an intimate way that we connect with the world. So I think that's a really powerful action mechanism for me.
Yeah, we do so many different things, but I guess for me, the one that first came to mind was we have a program called the Rock and Refill program. It's a partnership with Nalgene, and the goal of it is to raise funds while eliminating single-use plastic waste at concerts. So, you saw in the video all the plastic on the floor, and anyone who's gone to a concert, what the deal is when the lights come up at the end of the show. So that program, we've been keeping track of the impact for the past 11 years. And just through that program alone, we've eliminated 4.6 million single-use plastic water bottles from going into landfill because people are allowed, we work with venues to allow fans to bring in empty reusable water bottles so they can fill up at our free water stations at the Action Village. And we also have with Nalgene, if you didn't bring your own bottle and you wanted one, you can donate for a special limited edition tour bottle. So if you wanted the Billie Eilish or the Lord bottle or whatever, it's the cheapest merch available. It's the best way to get water for free, but you're also allowed to bring in your own bottle too. So it wasn't a pay-to-play thing. It was just, hey, we have free water here, and that's becoming culturally more the norm. Venues are starting to recognize that this is what fans want. They don't want to pay $10 for Dasani. Like, it doesn't taste good. It's terrible. I don't care if Coke comes after me. So it's ridiculous. Our double filtered free water stations that come right from the local water source taste great. So that's I'm happy with that one because it's just so tangible. It's real. You know you're eliminating plastic from going on the floor, which ends up in landfill or in the oceans. And we have a real stat that we can put against it because we know how much water we're distributing through our water stations. So I just love that, and it's nice at the end of a concert or a tour for the artist to hold up the mirror to their fan base saying, hey, here's what we did by eliminating disposable water bottles backstage, and here's what you did as fans, and together we've eliminated. And it's always like tens of thousands of bottles, on one tour. So it's very real and tangible, which I think is the key to this whole thing, is showing people that these little actions do truly add up. And it feels so easy to be hopeless and helpless for something as large as the climate crisis or protecting the environment, especially when your own government isn't helping anymore. So it's, I think, a large part of what we're doing here at REVERB, and with the positivity of our musician partners and all the energy that happens around a concert, all the great feelings, is instilling hope and action. And there's this incredible feedback loop between action and hope and action. And all of a sudden you're seeing results, so you have more hope, so you take more action, and around it goes. And that's really the biggest thing that we do at REVERB, is give people easy opportunities and on-ramps to taking action, being more sustainable in their own lives or right there at the show, demanding more from concert promoters or even products that they buy elsewhere in their lives, and then seeing that it actually has real impact, so they want to do more.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of the most amazing things that I've noticed in my recent conversations, I've been talking to a lot of venues. My background before REVERB was in building decarbonization, and so I've been talking about a lot of planning for venues, energy planning, wastewater, but it's really interesting to hear venues who are like, actually, we changed our whole program, whether it's like not having any single-use plastic that they sell at all anymore because of REVERB coming through here 10 years ago and showed us that, hey, there's a different way to do it. And that those little things that stick and have impact beyond that one show that we might do at a specific venue are where that impact just compounds. So yeah, that's been a really cool piece of the work recently.
Well, I want to talk about that a little bit too. So we're called REVERB, and the idea is that it ripples out, right? Like it reverberates starts on the stage and reverberates out to the audience, to the industry, and beyond. And so what you're talking about is, yes, within the industry to see systemic change happen, but then a lot of the stuff that you're working on now with the Music Decarbonization Project also has effects outside of music. And I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit more, but when I think about the things you were working on with transportation, with alternate power, and even fashion and merch.
Yes, we have 3 pillars again. 3 pillars within 3 pillars. So I lead the Music Decarbonization Project, which is a project that REVERB started before my time in 2023 in partnership with many of the artists that we work with. And the idea is to reduce the emissions directly from the music industry. So far we've worked on kind of 3 main areas, one being clean mobile power. So when you go to a festival or many stadium shows, they'll bring in auxiliary power because they don't have the shore power on site to be able to power the stages, all of the vendor needs, those kinds of things. So we have kind of catalyzed the industry to bring in battery units instead of diesel generators so that we're not burning diesel fuel on site. So that actually started in 2023 at Lollapalooza with Billie Eilish's headlining set, was powered by solar and batteries. And now I think we're up to like 160 artists sets that we've powered with batteries. This past year we did 3 main stages, one being Lollapalooza's entire main stage was powered by batteries. We did a festival in Kentucky that was on a former coal mine, that the entire festival was actually powered by batteries and solar provided by a local solar installer. So really seeing the industry move and change. We work with Golden Voice, one of the biggest. They run Coachella, Portola, Camp Flog Gnaw, which is Tyler the Creator's festival, and are working on battery solutions across the board there. So really seeing pretty amazing change quite quickly in the industry. And the cool thing about that is, when people see, hey, a battery is like powering the stage, maybe I should think about solar and battery for my home. Maybe I should think about resilience for my community center. They just see it, hear it, and they think about it more, we hope. And we definitely hear that from fans as well when we engage them on that topic. And then we also work on fan travel, and we're also working on merchandise, sustainable and ethical merchandise, which we're calling sort of responsible merchandise. On fan travel, one of the actions that we had was a fan travel survey. So we asked fans, how are you getting to shows? And what would you do? What would incentivize you to change that behavior and maybe travel in a more sustainable way? So we surveyed 35,000 fans across 400 concerts in 170 cities in North America, and we are now working with many of the venues where we surveyed folks on figuring out what some of those pilot solutions look like. One example is Red Rocks is actually, they don't have public transit that connects the Denver Metro public transit out to Red Rocks. And just this year, they're developing a pilot program called West Tracks, where they're doing that and piloting it. And so we've been in all of those conversations saying, how can we move this beyond just, the day use, but also for concerts? And so they're very excited about that. But it can also be little things like incentivizing fans to take a shuttle instead of driving their car, or, hey, carpool with friends and send us a photo and we'll enter you to win a, signed merch pack or something like that. So making it fun as well. And then merch, we have a report coming out next week, so it's really exciting. We're trying to help artists just understand what options are out there. And so thinking through materials, production techniques, all of the aspects, shipping and delivery, all the aspects that come along with producing merch, which is a huge and crucial piece of an artist's revenue. But how do you do it more sustainably? How do you do it more responsibly? And how do you just kind of plan out your strategy early and as far in advance as possible to really have the most impact long term? So lots of things going on my end of the spectrum, but that was kind of my next question was industry trends, kind of what's changing in the industry now. And I know I kind of spoke to a lot of that, but feel free to add on.
I think one of the interesting things that we worked with the Billie Eilish team on was around concessions and kind of the demand that there be a plant-based food option at concessions that had price parity with a meat-based conventional option. So just those sorts of things, and the power of the artist who sold out a venue to say, hey, you know what we want to do? We want to do this. And the venue goes, okay, let's do it. So I think that's always an incredible thing. Yeah.
I think for me, I'm going to half answer your question, sorry. For me, I think it's that why music? And yes, there's a cultural power in what we can do with individuals and fans and all that, and I think that's great. Because for example, with your merchandise work that you're doing, another big piece of what we're doing is how do you message that to the consumer? Because at the end of the day, why is this cost maybe a couple bucks more for this merchandise item versus something that's probably not as responsible for the planet or for people? So making sure that we're actually hitting consumers with the right messaging so they understand, well, it's not just for this artist's shirt, it's for anything you're going to buy. You should be asking these questions. Any apparel, doesn't matter. So there's the individual ripple effect, again, the reverberation, but then there's also the industry stuff. So with the battery power, these battery units, there aren't that many available right now around the country, but because of the demand that we've really started to drive within the music industry, these batteries originally came from construction sites because maybe they were noise sensitive areas that couldn't use generators. And then because of this demand and because of the level of visibility that music has, it's driving more. There's actually companies that are little startups that are growing more and more and getting capital funds to size up and scale up because of the demand from these large rock stars and these large festivals. And so if we can start doing that more and more, of course, just like we saw with solar, that's going to drive down price for all industries for this technology. So that's a major part of why music. It's a high-profile example of this ecosystem that applies way beyond music itself to other industries and to individual decisions. And that's what I think is so incredible about what the opportunity is within music. And it's a funny thing, because as a musician, that's my job. I'm trying to convince other peers, like, hey, you've got this incredible opportunity to make significant change and actually walk your talk.
I love it. Yeah, it's so exciting. There's so much still to do, but we're so excited to keep pushing on. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys one more question, then we're going to turn it over to the audience. So prepare your questions if you have any. So for any of the students that are in here, could you just offer some advice? What do you guys think, if you were students today, you would want to know about the world, the environmental space, the music industry, going into it? Yeah, what's your advice?
Adam and I were talking about that this morning, and I think the unconventional path, like, it's scary, but try not to be terrified and let it paralyze you. Don't let it paralyze you. And thinking about my time at Tufts, like, I went and did a semester abroad in Costa Rica with a program that didn't exist, and I had to get it vetted, and it was through other schools and all of that. So it was something that was kind of like off menu. And I remember that, and did this wacky environmental education master's program through Leslie, where I literally lived on a bus and camped outside every night for a year and a half, and then did this internship. And so it was just like an oddball program, very self-selecting, but again, kind of off book. And so that would be my encouragement, is to kind of like follow that little sizzle of an idea in your head and keep finding people and listening to that voice inside, and tracing that path to one that works for you, because we all have one, and it's just a matter of finding it. And it's going to diverge and come back together, and diverge and come back together. But so I think kind of the unconventional path is a great one.
Yeah, I love that. I would say, I would just kind of add to that and say, do it while you're young and not afraid to crash on couches. You have less responsibilities, and that's when you can take the risks to try paths that haven't been forged in front of you, where you can actually carve that path yourself, because you don't have as much to lose. So I would say, go for it, and don't linger. Just do it. You can always take a prescribed path later, like take the one that isn't, if that's what you're feeling.
Yeah, mine's kind of similar, but I think the one thing I did that I'm really happy I did is use my Tufts network. I think sometimes it's scary to reach out to people who are older than you or who are kind of established in their careers, but when I graduated in 2020 in COVID, and so it was a tough time out there, and reaching out to folks, and just, I learned about so many jobs that I didn't even knew existed. So I think really using and leveraging your network, talking to people who are passionate about what they do love to talk about it, as you can tell. Like, we all love to talk about what we do, so just kind of leverage that as much as you can. All right, so now we're going to turn it over to you. So if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand, and then I can call on you, and then Jess will give you the microphone.
Sure. Hi, my name's Tracy, Tufts 87, and I also did a master's at Leslie, and I'm an educator and curious if there's a fourth pillar or an interest in environmental education for K-12 students, or even for after-school programs, or nature centers, or music museums, or what your thoughts are.
I mean, I love all of that. Something that, I mean, I think we are educating a kind of diverse demographic through the shows, just because the artists we work with, pop artists especially, their demographics skew very young, and we've been working with folks like Dead and Company and Fleetwood Mac, and so we really get a broad spectrum of ages. But I would say the answer is we haven't done things in that realm, but we do service projects in communities, and we partner with nonprofits that we work with, kind of who come out and table at the shows. So that's part of it. And I definitely do a lot of speaking with women's leadership groups in our community, in schools in Maine, and just talking about, a lot of what we're talking about here is just like the path and how you find it and, you know, what is their path, and kind of helping them identify how to live a values-led life. So that is really important to me. So I'd like to do more of it, but I do think that in my mind, everything we're doing is education. We're educating the artists, we're educating their crew, we're educating the fans. But I think kind of the realm that you're speaking about is a bit different. And we do so much, so I would hesitate to take on one more thing. But I do think we kind of do have our little tentacles everywhere.
It's worth noting, like in that third pillar of supporting and amplifying other nonprofit work, one of our partners is Captain Planet, and that's exactly their mission, is K through 12. And we've supported them by having them out at shows, but also granting dollars to them as well. And Lauren and I will be speaking at one of their events soon as well, or at least you will be if I don't have a gig that day. So yeah, I mean, that's the way we get to parts of the movement that we aren't necessarily doing ourselves, but we can support, because no one organization can do it all. So if we can be that support hub and bring dollars and fans and action and volunteerism to it, then that's how we can kind of touch the other areas that we wish we could be doing ourselves, but don't have the capacity as a small organization to do it all.
And that's also a great time to just note the volunteer program. So we have a volunteer program. You can look on our website. I think it's just reverb.org/volunteer. Check out volunteer opportunities to come out to a show and work alongside us.
Hello, my name is Jenny Bonham Carter. I'm a local musician and social worker and activist here in Somerville. Thank you so much. What an inspiring talk. This is just a practical question. What about venues where you're not allowed to bring in things like a bottle, and how do you handle that?
We're lucky in that we work with artists that have a lot of power. And so if you're going to sell out a venue or a tour, we can use that power. So Jack Johnson's the best example I can think of right now. Billie Eilish is too, but we've been talking about Billie a lot, so I'll talk about Jack. So he makes it contingent upon booking a lot of these requirements. So if you're a venue that's not willing to do X, Y, Z, that's the end of the conversation. He's talking to the next venue in that market. And he actually puts REVERB in charge of reporting back to his booking agent who's agreed to the most sustainable efforts and who hasn't. And so there's a minimum requirements, and then there's 38 more pages of potential things. And we have a 2-hour conversation with 3 venues in every market. And we pit them against each other and say who's going to do the best, because we're going to have to tell Jack's agent who's going to do the best. So that's one way. If you don't have as much power, then it's about how do you and other peers put things in your hospitality rider. Or you can have the same way you have a hospitality rider, you have an Enviro rider, and actually we have that resource on our website, reverb.org. So there are ways there's that power in numbers too. So you don't have to be Jack Johnson or Billie Eilish or Dave Matthews Band to wield around your sellout show, but if there are enough of you doing these things, that works too.
And I would just add that it is over time, that drum beat. Like we would say, we want recycling, we want composting, we want these things, and they would go, they sold half the venue, we're not going to do it. And you go, okay, but we're going to keep asking. And so that constant asking, even if you're not getting it, I think it just does put the little bug in their ear.
Good evening. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so inspired by your work. Can you talk about the inciting moment when you were like, okay, we need to add philanthropy as a component to this? Because I'm curious how environment, music, and then philanthropy followed.
Yeah, the philanthropy piece started out with us. We just asked groups to come out and table with us and share their mission and have access to a new demographic of people in their hometown. And then it really became, we need to be compensating folks for their time, their effort, their travel. So then we would say, okay, if we have money in the budget, and that's a key piece of what we do, is we ask artists, can you add 50 cents or $1 to your ticket before the tickets go on sale, so we have a pot of money from which to work. We can cover our REVERB budget and our work, and then what we kind of call it like legacy funding or impact funding, where if we have this extra pot of money, we can give out these grants. But it started out with like, okay, we just need to fund folks for their time, for their parking, for their effort out of the office, for photocopies or presentation signs, whatever it may be. And so we'll give them $200 or $500. And so now that we've really kind of dialed in our asks, our relationships, and building that out from the get-go, we have more and more frequently have these pots of money. And so for us as an organization, it's incredibly important for us to not only compensate the organizations for their time, but to ideally grant out, grants that maybe it's $1,000, maybe it's $15,000, maybe it's $145,000. So we have all different size grants, depends on the artist, depends on the budget that we get to work with, but that is a wonderfully kind of vibrant part of what we're doing now, and we're excited to grow that because it really is about amplifying the movement, knowing that we are not we're the experts in the music industry, we know that, and Madeline's the decarbonization expert, but we are not the experts in every single nonprofit realm, and they're in their community doing the work, and we want to support that as much as possible. So that's something that I am we're all so enthusiastic about. But it's grown over time because initially it was just like, hey, you get access to people, new people, and that was it. And now it's about ideally granting nice chunks of money to folks doing the good work.
We basically got enough trust from our artist partners to lean in and to allow us the mechanisms to raise more funds that we could then grant out. And we were able to, again, it's messaging, right? I was a psychology major here at Tufts. So for me, it was about, hey, instead of just going into, as a touring artist, instead of just going into a city, extracting dollars for tickets and t-shirts and then leaving a pile of garbage behind and going on to the next city to do the same thing, how do we do the opposite? How do we give to each community that we land in? How do we make community stronger in each market? How do we make our fan base a stronger community and connect themselves into the places they live and the organizations that are doing great work in their communities? So how do we do that? How do we leave this wonderful wake of positivity and impact as a positive legacy of the tour? And so that's how we were able to kind of loosen the purse strings, so to speak, and be able to grant that out. And we've done it enough where we have a climate project portfolio. The most recent incredible example is Billie Eilish. She flipped the platinum ticket sale model on its head and said, I don't need these dollars. I just want the face value of the tickets like anything else. Anything above that is going to go into, she created this whole fund called the Changemaker program. That was a collaboration between her and her fans. So she said up front, these tickets, yes, are more expensive, but they're going to charitable causes. And for North America, she selected REVERB to be the steward of those millions of dollars to both, so Lauren worked on this, these two actually did it, I did nothing, I'm just talking. She did all the nonprofit advocacy granting, and Madeline did all the climate project portfolio work. And it was an incredible opportunity and kind of the peak so far of our organization of having an artist entrust us from one tour with millions of dollars to grant out. And it was a huge responsibility and a huge opportunity that we're so thankful for.
And we do also help tours measure their emissions. So we collect data from them, and we have like an in-house ability to calculate those emissions. And so we also kind of encourage artists, even if we're not doing some sort of fundraising mechanism on a tour, to say, hey, in acknowledgement of your emissions, can you make a donation of X amount? And we'll give them that amount based off of kind of relative costs of tons of emissions. And then those will either go into projects or, like I said, offsets. Occasionally we'll do those still. But yeah, so that's another kind of way that we can say, hey, artists, like, let's engage in this. Let's think about our impact within the music industry as well.
I think we have time for one last question.
Hi, my name's Mark. I'm a class of 95. You guys spoke a little bit to how Bonnie Raitt was really a catalyst and you guys being able to take that next step for the social causes that are important to you. Have you seen where people have now come to you to see whether or not you can be that catalyst for other social causes? And is there anything that you'd like to speak to of one that did have you and then all of a sudden it started to explode and where it might be?
I mean, I have a little micro example. There's an artist called Mr. G. He's a Latin Grammy Award winner and does an incredible job of communicating around environmental issues, butterfly migration, whale migration, habitat preservation. So he's written books, he performs with children all over the country. And so we are actually his fiscal sponsor for a lot of his educational programming. So actually it does speak to that educational question a bit. But, that's kind of the only official fiscal sponsee relationship we have with somebody that came to us and said, hey, this is kindred, can you help me? So that's an example.
As far as other causes, we do have this platform. And again, I'm the guy that talks to managers and artists and tries to convince them to work with us. And so most artists, if they care about the environment, they care about other causes too, because they care about people. And so because we've created this platform for engagement with fans, we're more than happy to bring in other causes that are near and dear to the artists' hearts. We just, for our mission drift, or trying to keep us from drifting too much, we want to make sure the tour is sustainable and that there's still some climate action or environmental organizations also being supported side by side in the village. So that's when we'll change the name from an eco-village to an action village, where it's more than just eco action that you can take in that village. So, when Roe v. Wade got rolled back, there were a ton of artists that wanted Planned Parenthood out on their tours. And so we worked with them directly because they'd never engaged fans at a concert before. So we worked with Planned Parenthood to set up an activation that would make sense at an action village when you only have so much time to engage with a fan before they go sit down to see the show. And actually carry that activation on a number of tours, and still do. So that's an example for sure.
All right, I think that's it for questions for today. Well, thank you guys so much for being such an incredible audience. Thank you, Adam and Lauren, for your time, and congratulations again. It's such an honor to work with you, and this was just such a fun conversation. And thank you so much to Tisch College for inviting us here. It was such a joy to be here.
Thank you.